The rain hammered the terracotta roof like 1,000 tiny accusations, each drop echoing the fury I'd buried for months. I slammed the car door, my boots splashing through puddles that mirrored the chaos in my chest, and stormed into the old library as if it owed me answers. There, behind a desk piled with forgotten tomes, sat Victoria, her eyes lifting slowly, steady as the ancient oaks outside, seeing right through the storm I'd brought with me. She didn't flinch when I demanded a book on betrayal, my voice cracking like thunder. Instead, she slid a worn copy of The Price of Salt across the scarred oak counter, her fingers brushing mine just long enough to steady the world tilting beneath me. Sometimes, she said softly, her American drawl cutting through the downpour, the best stories aren't about revenge. They're about what blooms after the fire. That touch lingered like smoke, pulling me back the next day, and the next, until the library's dusty shelves became my confessional, and Victoria, my unintended priest. I arrived in Ronda, that jagged scar of a town perched on the edge of Andalusia's cliffs, with nothing but a battered suitcase and a heart shredded by Elena's goodbye. Elena, my Elena, or so I'd thought for 5 years, had chosen the safe harbor of a desk job in Seattle over the wild uncertainty of my freelance writing dreams. "You're too much like this place, Chloe," she'd said over a crackling video call, her face pixelated and distant. "All cliffs and no ground." The words had gutted me, leaving me adrift, so I'd fled across the Atlantic to Spain, chasing the myth of reinvention in a land where the sun scorched secrets out of hiding. Ronda wasn't the postcard Spain of flamenco and sangria. It was raw, wind-whipped, the Puente Nuevo bridging a gorge so deep it swallowed screams. I rented a cramped apartment above a bakery that smelled eternally of almond pastries, the kind that stuck to your ribs like regret. Mornings I'd write in a cafe overlooking the ravine, forcing words onto pages that mocked my emptiness. Afternoons blurred into aimless wanders through the old town's labyrinthine streets, where whitewashed walls whispered of Moorish ghosts and Civil War scars. The library found me on a whim, or maybe desperation. Tucked into a converted convent on the edge of the barrio, it was a relic. Vaulted ceilings cracked like old skin, shelves sagging under volumes in Spanish, English, French, languages of exile. I pushed through the heavy door that first rainy Tuesday, water dripping from my hood, seeking shelter in something sharper, distraction. The air was thick with the musk of aged paper and lemon polish, a scent that wrapped around me like a reluctant embrace. Victoria was there, of course, as if she'd been waiting. At 55, she carried her years like a well-worn map, lines etched from laughter and loss, silver threads weaving through her dark hair like rivers on a topography of resilience. Born in Boston to Irish immigrants, she'd washed up in Ronda 2 decades ago after her own unraveling. A divorce from a man who'd promised the stars but delivered only silence. Now she curated this sanctuary of stories, her hands callous from binding spines and her voice a low velvety timbre that made every recommendation feel personal. "Can I help you find something?" she'd asked that first day, not looking up from cataloging a stack of poetry chapbooks. Her blouse was the color of faded sage, sleeves rolled to her elbows, revealing forearms tanned from tending the library's hidden herb garden. I mumbled about needing anything on starting over, and she led me to a corner alcove where sunlight slanted through arched windows, gilding the spines. The bell jar wide Sargasso Sea. Their eyes were watching God, titles that promised mirrors to my mess. As she handed me the bell jar, our eyes met, and in that hazel gaze, I saw not pity but recognition. "Starting over isn't linear, Chloe," she said, reading my name from the library card I'd fumbled. "It's a spiral. You keep circling back, but each loop carves you deeper." How she said my name like it was a secret she'd always known unraveled something in me. I took the book and fled into the rain, but the pull was set. By week's end I was back, borrowing excuses. A query on Lorca's Duende, a plea for translations of Garcia Marquez. Each visit stretched longer, our talks meandering from plot twists to the ache of unspoken truths. Victoria's world unfolded slowly, like a flower reluctant to bloom in Ronda's fickle spring. She'd left Boston after her husband, Tom, confessed to an affair. Not with a woman but with the bottle, and then the bottle's crueler companions. Lies that eroded their marriage like acid rain. "I came here for the light," she told me one afternoon, as we shared tea in the library's courtyard. Jasmine climbing the walls like veins. "Boston winters are for burying things." Spain. It digs them up. She was widowed now, Tom gone to cancer 5 years prior, leaving her with a daughter Sophia, who jetted between New York ad gigs and sporadic visits to Rhonda. Sophia was 28, sharp as a switchblade, with her mother's eyes but none of her patience for Roots. She thinks I'm stuck, Victoria laughed, stirring honey into her cup. But roots aren't chains, Chloe. They're what keep you from blowing away. I envied that steadiness, the way Victoria moved through her days with quiet purpose. Mornings shelving returns, afternoons leading a small expat book club, evenings in her garden coaxing rosemary and lavender from stubborn soil. She was 23 years my senior, a chasm that should have daunted me, but instead it anchored. In her I found a gravity I'd lost with Elena. A woman who listened without agenda, who saw the fractures in my stories and didn't flinch. Our first real fracture came innocently enough, over a shared reading of Giovanni's Room. The book club, me, Victoria, and 3 other American transplants. A retired teacher from Chicago, a painter from Portland, and a software widow from Austin, gathered in the courtyard under fairy lights strung like stars. Wine flowed, red as the gorge at sunset, and discussions veered from Baldwin's exile to our own displacements. David's betrayal isn't just of Giovanni, Victoria said, her voice cutting the evening chill. It's of himself. We all carry that mirror, don't we? The one that reflects what we're too afraid to claim. The group murmured agreement, but her eyes found mine across the circle, holding there with an intensity that made my pulse stutter. Later, as we cleared glasses, her hand grazed my wrist. Accidental perhaps, but the spark was deliberate. Stay, she whispered. Help me lock up? The library at night was a cathedral of shadows, moonlight pooling on the stone floors. We wandered the stacks, her stories filling the silence. How she discovered her queerness in her 40s post-Tom, through a fleeting affair with a fellow divorcee in Seville. It was like waking from a long sleep, she said, tracing a finger along a shelf of Austen. Terrifying. Exhilarating. I confessed my own scars then. Elena's slow fade. The way love had curdled into habit, leaving me hollow. I thought I was building something, I admitted, leaning against a ladder. But it was just scaffolding. Victoria stepped closer, the air between us humming. Scaffolding holds space for what's real, Chloe. Until you're brave enough to fill it. Her lips brushed my forehead. A benediction, not a claim. And I left that night dizzy, the kiss of her breath lingering like incense. What began as late-night lock-ins bloomed into stolen hours. Walks along the cliff paths at dawn, where the wind whipped our scarves and the world below yawned endless. Picnics in the olive groves where she'd read aloud from Neruda, her voice weaving spells around the cicadas' chorus. Love crept in sideways unannounced. It was in the way she'd tuck a wildflower into my hair, or how I'd catch her watching me write, her smile soft as fog over the ravine. At 32 I was all jagged edges. Restless, ink-stained, chasing horizons. Victoria was the horizon. Vast, unyielding, pulling me toward depths I'd never plumbed. Our first kiss happened in her garden, under a canopy of stars sharp as regrets. She'd been pruning roses, thorns nicking her thumb, and I bandaged it with a strip from my notebook, our breaths mingling in the lavender-scented dark. Chloe, she murmured, and then her mouth was on mine, gentle, questing, tasting of earth and possibility. We didn't rush. There were no frantic grasps, only the slow unraveling of guards long held. Her hands framed my face, thumbs tracing my jaw as if memorizing a poem. Mine tangled in her hair, silver and silk, grounding me in the miracle of her. In those early months, Rhonda became our canvas. We danced, clumsily, joyfully, to flamenco records in her tiny cottage, her laughter bubbling like the fountain in the plaza. She taught me to make gazpacho, her fingers guiding mine over the mortar, the rhythm intimate as a heartbeat. And in bed, shared now in the hush of her linen sheets, we explored not conquest but communion. Whispers in the dark, bodies aligning like puzzle pieces worn smooth by time. But love, I've learned, is a bridge over abyss, and bridges demand tolls. Sophia arrived unannounced in late summer, her taxi crunching gravel outside the library like an omen. I was shelving returns when the door flew open, admitting a whirlwind of designer luggage and Manhattan edge. Sophia. Lithe with cropped black hair and tattoos snaking up her arms. Lilies for her grandmother, anchors for the father she'd lost too young. She hugged Victoria fiercely, then pulled back, eyes scanning the room like a critic at a flawed exhibit. Mom, this place is a time capsule. When are you coming home? Her voice was all vowels, clipped and bright, but undercut with something sharper, resentment perhaps, for the mother who'd chosen cliffs over concrete. Victoria's face lit like sunrise. Sophia. What a surprise. Meet Chloe. She's the writer I told you about. Sophia's gaze flicked to me, appraising, then dismissed. The expat muse? Cute. The word landed like a pebble in still water. Ripples of unease. Over the next weeks, Sophia embedded herself, turning Victoria's routines into interrogations. Book club became family dinners at Paradors overlooking the gorge, where Sophia dominated with tales of gallery openings and toxic flings. New York's alive, Mom. This. She gestured at the stone walls. It's a beautiful grave. I tried to fold in, bringing sketches of story ideas or bottles of Ribera del Duero, but Sophia's barbs were subtle scalpels. Chloe, you ever think about real deadlines? Mom says you're between gigs. Or to Victoria sotto voce. She's sweet but, 32? You're playing house with a starter pack. Victoria deflected with her trademark grace, but I saw the toll, the way her smiles thinned, her garden untended. Our private moments shrank. Sophia's presence was a chaperone, her questions probing like spotlights. So how'd you two meet? Library rom-com. She teased, but her eyes dared contradiction. The betrayal brewed quietly, in the spaces Sophia filled. One evening, after a strained hike along the riverbed, Sophia complaining of dust, Victoria mediating, I lingered in the kitchen while they unpacked souvenirs. From the hall I heard Sophia's voice drop. Mom, be real. She's half your age. This is your midlife crisis on steroids. Remember Aunt Ruth? She chased a girl to Paris and ended up alone, picking up pieces. Silence, then Victoria's murmur. It's not like that, Soph. Chloe sees me, all of me. Does she? Or does she see escape? You're the wise older lover in her memoir. When the ink dries, she'll bolt back to America, and you'll be here shelving ghosts. The words clawed at me, but I slipped away before they could see. That night, alone in my apartment, doubt festered. Was Sophia right? Was I borrowing Victoria's strength like a plot device, only to discard her when my story resolved? The confrontation came on All Saints' Day, when Rhonda's streets filled with marigold garlands and candlelit vigils for the dead. Sophia had planned a girls' night. The three of us at a taberna famed for its patatas bravas and guitar strums. Victoria wore her sage blouse, hair loose like a banner. I, a simple black dress that suddenly felt too young. Sophia, in leather pants and silk top, ordered rounds with the authority of someone who'd never paid a tab. As the flamenco swelled, raw cries of loss and longing, Sophia leaned in, wine loosened. Truth or dare, Mom? Truth. What's the endgame here? Chloe moves in. You two adopt strays and write haikus about the gorge. Victoria's fork paused midair. Sophia, enough. But Sophia pressed, eyes gleaming. No, really. I found your emails from that summer in Seville. The one with Carla. It's real this time. Sound familiar? You fell hard then, too. And when she left for her ex, you shattered. I picked up the pieces, remember? At 18 while Dad was dying. The taberna hushed in my ears, the guitar a dirge. Victoria's face paled, hand trembling on her glass. That was different. Chloe. Is the same, Sophia cut in, turning to me. Run while you can, Chloe. She's a black hole for dreamers. Loves you until the mirror cracks, then blames herself. Or you. I stood, chair scraping like a scream. Stop. This isn't about you protecting her. It's about you hating that she's happy without your permission. Sophia laughed, brittle. Happy? She's 55, playing 25. Wake up. Victoria rose too, voice breaking. Girls, please. But the dam burst. I fled into the night, marigolds blurring under street lamps, the gorge's wind howling my name. Behind me shouts, Sophia's accusations, Victoria's pleas, but I ran, heart pounding the rhythm of every love I'd botched. I ended up at the library, of course, the one place that held us. The door yielded to my key, Victoria's spare, given in trust, and I curled into the alcove, clutching the price of salt, its pages dog-eared from our shared reads. Hours passed, or minutes. Time fractured. Dawn crept in, gilding the shelves when the door creaked. Victoria stood there, rain-slicked again, eyes red-rimmed. Chloe. I didn't move. Tell me she's wrong. She crossed the room, kneeling before me, hands open like offerings. Sophia's scared. Her father's ghost, my wandering, it's all tangled. But you? You're not Carla. You're not Escape. You're the light I didn't know I was missing. Tears hot on my cheeks. And if I leave? Like Elena, like your ghosts. Then I'll grieve, she said simply, cupping my face. But I'd rather risk the fall than never climb. We wept then, tangled on the stone floor, the book between us like a talisman. Sophia's words echoed, but Victoria's truth drowned them. Love wasn't flawless. It was forged in the forge of fear. The mending was slow, a spiral as she'd promised. Sophia stayed another week, apologies grudging over coffee in the courtyard. I lashed out, she admitted. Seeing you too. It reminded me of what I lost. Dad, you leaving. But I want you happy, Mom. Even if it's here. Victoria hugged her fiercely. Happiness isn't a place, Soph. It's who you carry. Sophia left with a tentative truce. Monthly calls, a promised holiday. And we rebuilt brick by loving brick. I finished my novel in Victoria's garden, dedicating it to the woman who taught me roots can fly. She expanded the library's queer lit section, hosting readings that drew souls from Seville to the Strait. Years folded like pages. At 35, I published. At 58, Victoria danced at our quiet commitment ceremony under the Puente Nuevo. Rings simple silver, vows whispered against the wind. Rhonda, our fierce witness, bloomed around us. Cliffs enduring, bridges holding. She didn't just help me find books. Victoria unearthed me. From wreckage to wonder, proving that love at any age is the story worth every scar. In her arms I learned the truest reinvention isn't running. It's rooting deep, where the light breaks through. The autumn after Sophia's departure painted Rhonda in strokes of amber and rust, the olive trees heavy with fruit that mirrored the weight in my chest. Victoria and I had patched the immediate wounds, but fractures lingered like hairline cracks in porcelain, beautiful but prone to shattering under pressure. Our days resumed their rhythm. Mornings with coffee on her cottage balcony, overlooking the gorge where eagles wheeled like forgotten prayers. Afternoons lost in the library's embrace, her curating shelves while I scribbled in the alcove, stealing glances that reignited like embers. Yet doubt whispered. Sophia's barbs had seeded questions. Was I truly seeing Victoria, or the romance of her resilience? At 55, she moved with a grace born of battles, knees that creaked after long stands, a shoulder scar from a childhood fall in Boston's snowy alleys, but her spirit was unbowed, a flame that warmed without consuming. I, at 32, was still shedding Elena's shadow, my restlessness a live wire. Am I enough? I'd murmur into her neck some nights, her laughter vibrating against my skin. More than Chloe. You're the plot twist I never saw coming. Winter brought the first real storm, not rain but revelation. A letter arrived for Victoria, forwarded from New York. Crisp envelope, Sophia's looping script. I watched her open it at the kitchen table, her face unfolding from curiosity to stone. What is it? I asked, setting down my tea. She slid it across, voice tight. Sophia's engaged. To a gallery owner, Mark. Wedding in the spring. Joy should have bloomed, but her eyes held shadows. That's wonderful, I said, hugging her. But later, alone, I saw the undercurrent. Sophia's life anchoring in the city Victoria had fled, a tether pulling at old guilts. The wedding invitation followed, a cream cardstock summons to our families. Sophia called that night, her voice bubbling over speakerphone. Mom, you have to come. And Chloe, bring her. It'll be fun, promise. No drama. Victoria hesitated, glancing at me. We're not family yet, Soph. Exactly why. Show the world what you've built. We flew to New York in March, the city a assault of steel and siren shrieks after Rhonda's hush. Sophia's loft in Chelsea was a gallery of her life. Canvases splashed with urban grit, photos of Mark, tall, bearded, with a smile like a billboard. The engagement party swirled around us. Artists in asymmetric hems, financiers nursing craft cocktails, laughter ricocheting off exposed brick. Victoria shone, her simple emerald dress hugging curves time had softened to perfection, drawing compliments like moths. You look radiant, Sophia whispered, linking arms. Chloe's good for you. but undercurrents tugged. Mark's mother, a Park Avenue widow with a Botox smile, cornered Victoria over canapes. "So you're the librarian? How quaint. Sophia says you're quite the free spirit. Spain books now this." Her gaze flicked to me dismissive. Age gap adventures. Adorable but fleeting. Victoria's jaw tightened but she smiled. "Fleeting's for mayflies, Elaine. Love's for oaks." I pulled her away, heart pounding. "Don't let her." "It's fine," she said, but her hand trembled in mine. The rehearsal dinner was worse. A French bistro in the village, candlelight flickering on linen. Sophia's toast lauded second chances. Eyes on us, but then Mark's sister rose, wine glass aloft. "To family, the ones we choose and the ones who stick." Laughter, then a pause. "Victoria, you're like the cool aunt everyone wants. Inspiring, really reinventing at your age." The table chuckled. Victoria's fork scraped china. I squeezed her knee under the table, but the damage seeped. That night, in our Midtown hotel, she unraveled. "Cool aunt," she echoed, pacing the carpet. "Is that what I am?" The eccentric sidebar to their real story. "No," I said, drawing her to the bed. "You're the heart." But she pulled away, staring out at the neon sprawl. Sophia's right to worry. I dragged my baggage everywhere. Tom's ghost, my late awakening. "You deserve unscarred, Chloe. Not this relic." The word gutted me. Relic? You're alive in ways I can't touch yet. Your story's your strength. Strength? She laughed bitterly. "It's armor. Underneath? I'm terrified you'll wake up and see the years, the wear." We made love then, fierce and tender, bodies affirming what words couldn't. But dawn brought no ease. The wedding loomed like a guillotine. The ceremony was at a Hudson Valley estate, dogwoods in bloom against stone arches. Sophia, ethereal in lace, walked the aisle on Mark's father's arm. Victoria's eyes glistened, pride warring with ache. We sat front row, hands clasped, but whispers slithered. "That's her." The Spanish phase. During the reception, tented lawn, string quartet crooning Cole Porter, Sophia pulled us aside. "Mom, you okay? You seem distant." Victoria forced a smile. "Just emotional." "You're beautiful." Sophia hugged her, then me. "Thanks for coming. It means everything." But as she spun away to cake cutting, a cousin sidled up, drunk, loud. "Victoria, right? Heard you're into women now. Bold move at your age. Sophia says it's inspirational, post-menopause liberation or something." Victoria froze. I stepped forward. "Excuse me." The cousin blinked, swaying. "Just saying, good for her living it up." Victoria excused herself, fleeing to the gardens. I followed, finding her by a fountain, shoulders shaking. "Chloe, I can't." "It's ignorance," I said, enfolding her. "Not truth. But it stings because, what if they're right? I'm 55, fumbling this late bloom. You vibrant, young, why tether to my autumn?" "Because autumn's my favorite season," I whispered, kissing her temple. "Harvest, not barren." We returned, but the joy was tarnished. On the flight home, Victoria slept against my shoulder, murmuring apologies in dreams. Spring thawed the chill, but summer scorched old wounds. Sophia's honeymoon photos flooded our inbox. Beaches in Bali, captions of "Forever starts now." Victoria scrolled silently, then closed the laptop. "She's launched. We should celebrate our way." We did. A weekend in Granada. The Alhambra's palace is a labyrinth of Moorish whispers. We wandered hand in hand through the Generalife gardens, fountains singing of eternal springs. In our room, overlooking the Sierra Nevada, she read me Rumi by lamplight. "The wound is the place where the light enters you." That night barriers fell. "I love you," she said, not as declaration but fact. "All my mess, all my years." "And I you," I replied, tracing constellations on her skin. "For showing me love isn't a sprint." Back in Rhonda we deepened roots. I signed a lease on space in her cottage, my desk amid her herbs. The library thrived. We co-hosted a reading series, Bridges and Borders, drawing queer voices from across Iberia. Women shared stories of hidden loves, late awakenings, mirrors to ours. But betrayal's shadow lengthened. In September, Sophia visited again, this time with Mark, their glow undimmed. Over paella in the plaza, talk turned to babies. Maybe next year. And Victoria's face softened. Grandkids in Rhonda? They'd climb those cliffs like goats. Sophia laughed, then sobered. Actually, we might move here. Mark's got a remote gig. Closer to you. Joy sparked but caution flickered. Really? Victoria asked. Sophia nodded. Yeah, and I owe you an apology. For the wedding, the jabs. I was projecting, scared you'd fade like Dad. But seeing you with Chloe? It's real. Solid. We toasted, but that night alone, Victoria confessed. Part of me dreads it. Sophia's light pulls hard. What if she needs me more than you do? Then we share, I said. Love expands. Yet the undercurrent stirred. Sophia and Mark rented a flat near the market, their energy infusing Rhonda with New York buzz. Pop-up art nights, brunches at the bakery below my old apartment. Victoria mentored Sophia's first local exhibit, pride beaming. But I felt the shift. Dinners stretching late, Victoria's laughter brighter with her daughter's tales. One evening, after a gallery opening, Sophia's abstracts of urban exile selling briskly, I waited in the cottage, stew simmering. Victoria arrived at midnight, flushed. Sorry ran long. Sophia's on fire. It's good, I said, stirring. But the words tasted flat. The crack widened over weeks. Missed walks, her phone buzzing with Sophia's texts. Help me frame these? Or quick coffee, marks out. I buried it in writing my second book, weaving our story. Fictionalized, tender but jealousy gnawed. The breaking point came in November. Rhonda's winds howling like banshees. I'd finished a chapter, eager to share. Victoria was at the library late. Inventory. I went to surprise her, bearing tapas. The door ajar, voices spilled. Sophia's urgent. Mom, listen, I found emails. From Chloe's ex, Elena. She's reaching out, saying Chloe's unstable. Always runs. And your old letters to Carla? I read them. This cycle, it's toxic. Victoria's voice strained. Soft, that's private. Chloe's grown. Has she? Or is she using you like you use Carla? I love you too much to watch you break again. Silence then. I need to think. I burst in, tapas scattering. How dare you? Sophia whirled, Victoria paled. Chloe. Reading my emails? Spying. Rage boiled. This is betrayal, Victoria. Not protection. Victoria reached for me. I didn't know. But you'll listen? Let her poison us. I backed away, heart fracturing. I'm done being the villain in your family script. I fled to the gorge path, wind lashing tears. Hours later, Victoria found me on a bench, dawn breaking. Chloe, please. I looked up, raw. Do you believe her? She knelt, eyes pleading. No. But fear. Creeps. Sophia's my blood. You're my heart. I can't lose either. Then choose, I said, voice steel. Fight for us or let her win. She cupped my face, tears falling. You. Always you. The reconciliation was fire forged. We confronted Sophia that afternoon, civil but unyielding. Boundaries, Victoria said firmly. My life, my choices. Trust me or step back. Sophia nodded, chastened. I was scared. Sorry for both of you. Healing followed. Therapy sessions via Zoom with a Barcelona counselor. Family dinners laced with honesty. Sophia bloomed independently, her art thriving. Mark and I bonded over bad golf jokes. Victoria and I, we emerged stronger, our love tempered like steel. By winter's end, as snow dusted the cliffs, a rarity in Andalusia, we stood in the garden planting bulbs for spring. To cycles, she said, soil under our nails. To us, I replied, kissing her dirt-smudged cheek. Spring 2026 unfurled in Rhonda like a long-held breath. Azaleas exploding in pinks and whites along the cliff walks, mirroring the tentative hope we'd cultivated through winter's trials. Sophia's intrusion had been a scalpel, excising doubts, leaving us scarred but whole. Victoria, ever the gardener, tended our bond with deliberate care. Surprise notes slipped into my manuscripts. Your words are my compass. Shared journals where we'd scribble gratitudes, hers for my fierce heart, mine for her unyielding grace. At 56 now, Victoria's vitality seemed amplified, as if confronting the abyss had vitalized her. She launched a community archive at the library. Oral histories from Rhonda's LGBTQ+ elders, voices long silenced by Franco's shadow. I contributed, interviewing a 70-year-old painter who'd loved in secret during the dictatorship. Her tales of coded letters and midnight assignations echoing our own whispers. Love persists, the woman said, eyes twinkling. Like olive roots, deep, enduring. My second book, Cliffside Confessions, released that April to quiet acclaim. Reviews praising its raw humanism. A whisper of film interest from Ella. Victoria attended the Seville launch, beaming in the front row, her presence a talisman against imposter nerves. Back home we celebrated with a picnic under the stars, manchego and membrillo. Her reading fan letters aloud until laughter dissolved into kisses. But life's drama doesn't conclude neatly. It layers like sedimentary rock in the gorge. Sophia announced her pregnancy in June, a ultrasound photo emailed with the subject, Grandma-to-be. Victoria wept over breakfast, joy mingling with terror. A baby. Here in Rhonda. Our worlds colliding. Sophia and Mark had settled fully, their flat a nursery in waiting. Ultrasounds became group rituals, the four of us huddled over grainy images debating names. Luna for the moon over the puente, or Rio for the whispering waters below. Victoria dove in, knitting blankets in soft alpaca, her needles clicking like Morse code for love. I felt the pull, familial, fierce, but also the pinch. At 33 my biological clock ticked faintly, a rhythm I'd ignored amid career chases. Watching Victoria coo over booties I wondered, what legacy would we leave sans blood? Ever think about it? I asked one evening as we soaked in her clawfoot tub, steam curling like secrets. Children. She traced suds on my shoulder. Once with Tom. But now? Our family is chosen. Sophia, you the library souls. If more comes. It comes. Her words soothed but seeds of unrest stirred. Elena resurfaced then, a ghost in my inbox. Saw your book. Proud? Miss you. Coffee in Madrid. I deleted it but showed Victoria transparency our vow. She read. Then burned the printout in the garden fire pit. Ashes for the wind, she said, pulling me close. Summer peaked in conflict skies. A library funding crisis. Rhonda's council, strapped by tourism slumps, eyed the building for condo conversion. Too quaint for modern needs, the mayor decreed at a town hall. His suit starched as his conservatism. Protests erupted. Expats chaining to gates, locals chanting, Libros no ladrillos. Victoria led, her speeches electric. This isn't stone and shelves, it's memory. Strip it, and you orphan us all. I rallied, organizing online petitions, my writers' network amplifying the cry. Sophia designed protest posters, gorge-inspired graphics of books as bridges, while Mark handled logistics. The fight bonded us, nights blurring into strategy sessions in the courtyard, wine and worry flowing. Climax crashed on a sweltering August afternoon. The council vote loomed. We'd gathered allies in the library, banners draping arches. As Victoria addressed the crowd, voice rising like a cantata, counselors burst in, eviction notice in hand. Out by dawn. Chaos. Shouts, shoves, a scuffle where an aide grabbed Victoria's arm, bruising. I lunged, pulling her free, but Sophia, visibly pregnant now, stumbled, intervening, Mark catching her as she gasped. The baby. Medics swarmed, the crowd hushed. In the ambulance bay, tests confirmed. Stress, not harm, but the scare etched deep. Victoria, bandaged and defiant, held Sophia's hand. We're okay. But the library. That night rage unified us. Sophia, from her hospital bed. Fight dirtier. Social media storm. Mark. Legal aid, I've got a contact. My publisher, National Press. The backlash swelled. Op-eds in El País, viral videos of Victoria's plea. Celebrities tweeted solidarity. Donors poured in. By September, the council capitulated. Funding secured, expansion promised. Victory tasted bittersweet, the bruise on Victoria's arm fading slower than the fear in Sophia's eyes. You could have lost her, she told me in the hospital garden, belly rounding under her sundress. Thank you for fighting. Family redefined, solidified. Sophia's daughter, Luna, arrived in October. A squall of cries and tiny fists, born under Rhonda's harvest moon. Victoria held her first, tears tracing laugh lines. Perfect, she whispered. I followed, Luna's gaze locking on mine, dark, curious. Auntie Chloe, Sophia said, grinning. She'll climb those cliffs with you. Motherhood reshaped us. Sophia leaned on Victoria more. Midnight feedings, tantrum wisdom, while I discovered Auntie Joy's bedtime stories in English and Spanish, Luna's giggles at my tickles. Doubts of legacy dissolved. Love I saw propagated sideways, not just downward. Yet drama's arc demands descent. Winter brought Victoria's diagnosis. Early rheumatoid arthritis, joints stiffening like the gorge in frost. Manageable, the Seville rheumatologist assured, prescribing meds and rest. But watching her wince shelving books, I ached. Let me, I'd say, taking the load. She waved it off fierce. This body carried me through storms. It'll weather this. Pride warred with my helplessness. One blizzard night, rare snow blanketing Rhonda. She woke feverish, joints aflame. I drove her to emergency, tires slipping on ice, heart in throat. I'm fine, she insisted, but 4 drips and steroids told otherwise. In the sterile room as dawn grayed the windows, she gripped my hand. Promise me no pity. This isn't the end, it's chapter. Whatever. Never pity, I vowed, kissing her knuckles. Only us. Recovery was glacial. Physical therapy in the garden. Me massaging lotion scented with her herbs. Sophia helped Luna's Kuza bomb. You're warriors, she said, watching us one afternoon. Spring 2027 marked turning. Victoria adapted Kane, a stylish ebony prop, her archive blooming with new voices. My third book, Roots in the Ravine, dedicated to her sword, funding a library wing. Victoria's Vault. Our 10th anniversary, no 5th? Time blurred, we marked in the Alhambra again. Luna toddling between us, Sophia and Mark trailing. Under the Court of Lions, fountains eternal. Victoria slipped a locket into my palm. Engraved, light enters here. You changed me, she said, hazel eyes steady. From buried to blooming. And you, I replied. From solo to symphony. Luna clapped, oblivious. Sophia smiled, arm around Mark. Betrayals past, Sophia's meddling, Elena's echo. Even arthritis's bite, faded to footnotes. We'd clashed, cracked, but emerged humanistic. Flawed, loving, vast. Rhonda's cliffs endured, bridges holding secrets. In Victoria's arms, book dust on our skin, I knew. The best stories aren't endings but continuations. Spirals upward, light through every wound.